Namaste, Shubhodaya. Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another session of Weekend with Wisdom. Let us start with a small prayer. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Veda Vivagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Shri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Today we have a very special guest, Swamini Paraprajnananda ji. She joins us from Gujarat. She is an erudite sannyasin, very well versed in the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, and other Vedantic texts. She is a student of Revered Swami Viditatmananda Saraswati ji, an Acharya of Adhyatma Vidya Mandir, Ahmedabad. And she has been teaching Vedanta for the past 20 years. And she's very active in Gujarat. She goes everywhere. She teaches Vedanta in Gujarati as well as other languages. A very warm welcome to Swamini ji, and thank you very much for joining us for agreeing to join on our program. Viewers, Swamini ji will be speaking today in the morning session as well as in the evening session on one of the very important Upanishads called the Kenopanishad. It is the term Kena comes from, the Upanishad starts with the question Kene, Shitam, etc. It has a very wonderful story about Indra and others. And it's one of the very prominent Upanishad, and I am sure we will all be rich towards the end of the session today evening. We will be all rich, and we will be in knowledge, and we will be learning so many things. If you have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. And Swaminiji will take up these questions towards the end of the session. With this very brief remarks, Swaminiji, I request you to start your session.
Namaskar to everyone. As Nathan Sridharji said, the topic of our discussion today in both the sessions will be Kenopanishad. As you very well know, Upanishads are a part of Vedas. I'm sure you know what the Vedas, etc. are, but let us quickly look into what Vedas are, and then we will go into Kenopanishad. Vedas, this word is derived from the Sanskrit root vid, which is in the sense of to know. So Vedas are a body of knowledge. They are the source books of knowledge. And the uniqueness of these Vedas are that they are not written or composed by any human being. They are revealed texts. Ishvara himself has revealed them. There is a mantra in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad which says, Asya mahato bhutasya nishvasitam yadetet rugveda yajurveda etc. Which means that all the Vedas, all the Upanishads are really outbreath of Ishvara himself, which means that they are the revealed texts. And there were people, not people but rishis, who received them. Because of their penance and purity, and because of their state of mind where their ego was totally sublimed and they were one with the truth, it is at such times that rishis received this truth from Ishvara. That is why rishis are also not mantra kartaraha kintu mantra drashtaraha, which means rishis have also not written these texts. They have seen them. They have heard them. The truth is everywhere, but they could receive it. They could grasp it because of their mental state. So this is what Vedas are. And again, they are segmented into two: Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Karma Kanda primarily deals with karma and dharma. They reveal different means and ends for human beings. So that is what Karma Kanda is. And then comes Jnana Kanda. Jnana Kanda is the section where we find the Upanishads. And this deals with the knowledge of the self. Here, Jnana Kanda, where Upanishads are found, is also called Vedanta. Vedanam Antaha Vedanta. Vedanta is a positional name given keeping in mind where this Upanishads is found. So as I said, Upanishads are found in the Vedas towards the end, generally speaking. And they primarily deal with, as I said, the truth. What is the truth of this creation? What is the truth of this individual? What is his reality? And the Upanishads declare the primary purport of the Upanishads is to show that individual is none other than Brahman or the truth. There is absolutely no difference between the individual and Ishvara. So this is the main purport of the Upanishads. And all these Upanishads are found in the Vedas. Vedas are four. Actually, as I said, it was a body of knowledge, but Veda Vyasa classified these Vedas into four. And these four are Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. Yajurveda has again two branches, and that is Shukla and Krishna Yajurveda. Now, in all these Vedas, Upanishads are found, and there are many of them. But in Vedanta, we learn mainly 10 Upanishads. In fact, there are many of them. There are so many Upanishads, more than even 100. But for the teaching purpose, we learn 10 Upanishads. That is because Shankaracharya ji, the foremost of the Vedantic teacher, he has composed commentaries on 10 Upanishads, which are Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Mundak, Mandukya, Aitareya, Taitareya. Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Mundak, Mandukya, Aitareya, Taitareya, Brihadaranyaka, and Chandogya. These are the 10 Upanishads which he chose for writing his commentary, primarily because this contains everything which a student or an individual needs to learn about the reality. And so, in Vedantic tradition, we learn these 10 Upanishads. And as I said, all these Upanishads are found in the Vedas. Each of the Vedas has more than one Upanishad. Let me just tell you that Rigveda, the primary Upanishad which is found in Rigveda, is Aitareya and Kaushitiki. Then in Samaveda, we have Chandogya Upanishad, important one, and also Kenopanishad, which we will be studying, is found in Samaveda. Then there is, as I said, Yajurveda, which again are two, Krishna and Shukla Yajurveda. Krishna Yajurveda, the Upanishad which is found in Krishna Yajurveda is Taittiriya Upanishad and Kathopanishad. In Shukla Yajurveda, we have Ishavasya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Then Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda has many Upanishads, Prashna, Mundak, Mandukya, and Kaivalya. Of course, Kaivalya is not one of those 10, but it is also a very, very important Upanishad. So this is just to show you how all the Vedas have Upanishads in them, and all these 10 are found in them. Now comes Kenopanishad. Kenopanishad is found in, as I said, Samaveda. In Samaveda, Also, there are many recensions of Samaveda. And this is found, Kenopanishad is found in Talavakara Shakha of Samaveda. And to be precise, Kenopanishad forms the 9th chapter of the Talavakara Shakha of Kenopanishad. It is a very, very beautiful Upanishad, of course, relatively small, but it is wonderful Upanishad. And to tell you, it is quite advanced and profound. There are only 4 chapters in it. The first 2 chapters deal with Brahma Vidya, and the third and 4 mantras of the 4th chapter show us a story, gives us a story of Yaksha. What is dealt with in the first 2 chapters is illustrated in the form of a story in the 3rd chapter and first 4 mantras of the 4th chapter. And then in the 4th chapter, we are given certain upasanas, meditations, and also there are means shown how to prepare oneself for knowledge, as well as the result of this Brahma Vidya is also given there. So this is in brief something about Kenopanishad. One more important thing about Kenopanishad is that it is a very important in as much as Shankaracharya ji has written 2 commentaries, not one, but 2 commentaries on this Upanishad. One is Padabhashya and second one is Vakya Bhashya. Padabhashya is where he has commented on each and every word of the mantras of Kenopanishad, which he usually does for all the Upanishads. Having extensively commented upon the words of the Upanishad, padas of the Upanishad and Padabhashya, having done that, he was not quite satisfied. Why? Because here he dealt with the Upanishad keeping the Shruti in mind. But then he realized that in Brahma Sutra, which is a book of reasoning and very important, it forms the part of the Prasthanatrayi, which are Prasthanatrayi means Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. This 3 forms the pillar of Vedanta. And in Brahma Sutra, this Kenopanishad is not dealt with. Brahma Sutra deals with all these Upanishads with reasoning. With reasoning, with yukti, everything is dealt with over there. And Bhashyakara saw that Kenopanishad has not found a place in Brahma Sutra. That is why he wrote Vakya Bhashya. Vakya Bhashya means where prominence is given to the sentence, and that is how the Upanishad mantras are explained. But here, Bhashyakara gave prominence to yukti. Yukti means reasoning. So with reasoning, these mantras are explained. That is how he wrote 2 bhashyas, Padabhashya and Vakya Bhashya. This is just to show you how this Kenopanishad is a very, very important mantra. Very, very important Upanishad. It is a Mantropanishad. Now, to go into its naming, there is no big deal about why it is named Kenopanishad. The rishis were very simple. Just because the very first mantra begins with a question, which we will see. Kene shitam patati preshitam, by whom, willed by whom, prompted by whom does the mind, etc., go to their objects. So this is the question of the student with which the Upanishad starts. Therefore, the name is given Kenopanishad. Just as Ishavasya Upanishad, the first mantra is Ishavasyam, Ishavasyamidam Sarvam. So the Upanishad, the name of the Upanishad is Ishavasya. In that way, the name is given. There is no big reasoning behind it. So this is how the name is Kenopanishad. It is a dialogue between the teacher and the student, which generally we find in all the Upanishads. Yeah, in some Upanishads, the Upanishad straight away begins, but mainly, or what we generally find is that the student approaches a teacher, and that is how the teacher then explains. So, Upanishads is in the form of the dialogue. The very word Upanishad, let me clarify this also. The very word Upanishad reveals that it is the subject matter is Brahma Vidya. Because the word Upanishad is derived from the verbal root Sat, which is in the sense of Gati, Visharanam, and Avasadhanam. To make it simple, this it reveals it shows that the subject matter will take you to yourself. To this Sad Dhatu, two prefixes are attached, Upa and Ni and Sadas. To Sad, these two prefixes are attached, Upa and Ni. Upa means Samipyena and Ni means Nishchitam Jnana. So Samipya shows that what is the subject matter about. So Upa says it is about something which is very close. How close? There cannot be something more close than the self. And so this is the knowledge about the self. And Ni, prefix Ni shows Nishchitam Jnanam. What kind of knowledge will this be? So it says it will be definite knowledge. And what will this knowledge do is revealed by the verbal root Sada, which again, we are not getting into grammar, but then Kvip Pratyaya is applied, and then agency, sense of agency comes into this, it is converted into Kartu, and that is how it does something. What does the Upanishad do? It takes you to yourself. Because of ignorance, from time immemorial, since Anadi Kala, you are far removed, humans, we all of us are far removed from our true nature. That is why Upanishad brings us to ourselves. First, it loosens up. First, it loosens up the knots of avidya, of ignorance, and then destroys it. So, in short, the very word Upanishad reveals that it is the nature, it is the knowledge about the self, which means it will be showing us that you are the very truth. Truth is not away from you. In fact, you are that. And since the text deals with this, so primarily, Upanishad itself means Brahma Vidya, and since the text contains this Brahma Vidya, the text is also called Upanishad. So this is in short about what Upanishad is. We have already seen in brief what Kenopanishad is, and now we will get into the Upanishad. Traditionally, before we start any Upanishad, before we begin the study of Upanishad, we carry out a prayer. Why? Because because this is a very, very important thing that we are doing. And for that, we invoke the grace of Ishvara so that our swadhyaya, our study goes on without any obstacle. And that is why we carry out the prayer. Generally speaking, before the swadhyaya of any Upanishad, the prayer mantra which is chanted is the prayer mantra which belongs to that Veda. Since Kenopanishad belongs to Samaveda, the mantra, the Shanti mantra of Samaveda is Apyayantu Mama Angani. That is why always before the study or Swadhyaya of Kenopanishad or any Upanishad belonging to Samaveda, the prayer mantra will be Apyayantu, which we will be chanting. Or let us say, if you are studying Kathopanishad, then the prayer, it belongs to Yajurveda. And there, the mantra is Sahanavavatu. So, before the study of that Upanishad, you will chant the Shanti mantra of that particular Veda. Since here, The Shanti mantra of Samaveda is Apyayantu Mama Angani. So we will be chanting that. I'm quickly chanting it so that we we have Ishwara's grace with us in carrying out this session. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushrotramato Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahmopanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्तिः. So this is the mantra, where, as I said, both the teacher as well as the student are praying to Ishvara. What is the prayer? O Lord, please grant to my limbs the fitness as well as the ability so that they remain fit during the study. Let them grow. All the limbs, which are the limbs, then the main things are, the main limbs which are mentioned here are ears and other sense organs of knowledge. So may they remain fit so that this study is carried out without any obstacles or impediments. Then the prayer mantra says, everything is Brahma, everything is truth. And I pray to that Lord that may you not reject me. I also pray that I also do not reject Ishvara. So we both remain together to carry out this. And the prayer mantra further says that please, all the qualities and attitudes and dharmas which are mentioned, may they be in me so that I am eligible to carry out this study. As I said, both the teacher and the student needs to do this prayer. Why? Because teacher also may find the right words, right ideas, and right methodology to communicate. So he also needs to pray, plus the student also needs to pray so that he can quietly, with a vigilant and sharp mind, he can also listen. And then Shanti is repeated thrice. Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. This is not three different kinds of Shanti, but may there be peace at the individual level, may there be peace at the level of the world, and may there be peace. Level of the world means from the extraneous factors, plus may there be peace at the level of the celestial beings or devatas, which means that may I receive grace from all the directions so that I can carry out. Grace makes all the difference. You never know that there is always a distance between the cup and the lip. Anything can disturb me in what I want to do. That is why prayer. Our culture puts a lot of emphasis upon prayer. So, having done this, now we will get into Upanishad, Kenopanishad. As I said, the Upanishad begins with the question of the student. What is this question? The question itself is brilliant. And the question shows that the student is very mature. He has prepared himself. He is brilliant. Maybe because of his life lived intelligently in this life, or in the past life, he may have done all that, and that is why he is all ready. And he comes up with a question. What is that question? We will read. The very first mantra is, I'm reading that. Om Keneshitam patati preshitam manah Kena prana pratama praitiyuktah keneshitam vachamimam vadanti chakshushrotram kaudevo yunakti. Which means that the student asks, see, closely listen to what he is asking. Will keneshitam patati preshitam mana? He is asking that he goes to the teacher, approaches him humbly, and with folded hand is asking, willed by whom and prompted by whom does the mind go to its objects? Kena prana prathama praiti yukta. Kena, this, by whom does the prana, which means the vital air, go and I mean, by whom, willed by whom does the vital air carry out its functions? In the same manner, willed by whom the speech is able to speak. And in the same manner, chakshushrotram kau devo yunakti. Who is it who makes this eyes and ears, etc. see? Who is it that joins the sense organs with their objects? This is an amazing question. It shows that he has been thinking, and he has a feeling that there is something more than what meets the eye. From the function of the sense organs, from the function of this body, mind, intellect, prana complex, this upati, this body, which has everything in it, prana, a vital air is there, sense organs of actions are there, sense organs of knowledge are there, all this is there, mind, intellect, everything is there. This is this whole complex is made of all this. Seeing their functioning, he is asking, who is it which makes this mind go into its object? That means he has a feeling that this mind and the sense organs, etc., are not functioning on their own. They seem to be inert. They are inert, and inert, that which is inert cannot function on its own. But the one who is prompting is not seen. Had he been seen, then this question would not have arisen. But he sees that all this is inert, and they seem to be prompted by someone conscious. Who is it? Who is that? Plus, he also has an understanding. He also is a feeling. Of course, there is doubt in him, but he seems to have apatata jnana, which means he seems to have some general knowledge. Maybe he got it from some satsanga, maybe from reading Vedas, etc., Upanishads, etc., on his own, or whatever. He seems to have a feeling that the one who is prompting them cannot really be prompting also. The one who makes the mind. So looking at the mind, he says, who is Preshitam? Prompted by whom does the mind go? So the usage is also passive. He says, prompted by whom does the mind go? Looking at the mind, he feels that mind is directed by somebody. Then he says that the one who is directing cannot be the director. Why? Because he immediately uses the word ishita, which means that maybe there is someone by whose desire the mind goes. So it is very clear that he seems to know. This is the question about the karta. This is question about twampada. Looking at the functioning of the body, he feels that there is someone who is doing all this. And then further, he also seems to know, or he is that brilliant to make out that the one who is prompting must also not have the must not be a doer. Had he been doing, then he would also become vikari or anitya like the body. So that someone who is doing all this must be such that by its mere presence, everything happens. This is his understanding that maybe there is someone whose mere presence, whose astitva matra is so powerful that in the presence of that, this body, mind, and intellect, etc., this whole complex, which is inert, is working. Now, see, here we see this body, mind, intellect complex working. Just as when we see the fan rotating, we know that fan cannot rotate on its own. It is due to the power, electricity, because of which the fan rotates. We are not seeing that electricity, but from the fan that is moving, we infer that there should be someone. Similarly, the student also feels that there has to be someone conscious who, because of whom this inert uh, complex and the sense organs of knowledge, as well as action, as well as mind, prana, etc., all of them are functioning. So, in short, his question is about the karta, which is who is not perceptible, but still, with his mind, he thinks he has to be there, even though he is not seeing. So, imagine his mind is occupied with not what is happening, what this body, etc., is doing, not with that, but who is making all this happen. So his question is very profound. He has asked this question, and the teacher seems to be very, very pleased with his question, because we see that the teacher immediately replies. That is not the case always, because in Chandogya Upanishad we see that when the student, none other than Indra, who was the king of the heavens, a king of the devatas, and other one is Virochana, who is the king of the demons. Both of them approached Prajapati for knowledge, and when they went there for knowledge, Prajapati did not immediately impart knowledge to them. He made them stay there and do upasana and tapascharya, penance, etc., for 32 years. After that, he called them, which means what I'm trying to say is that it is not always that these rishis impart knowledge right away. Only and only when they see that the student is ready, is eligible, and all prepared, do they reply. So here also we see that the teacher right away replies. And the reply of the teacher is also amazing. It is also wonderful. At the outset, we may find it is peculiar and it is strange, but no. When we listen to the answer, to the reply of the teacher, we find there cannot be any other way of replying. So what does the teacher say? He says, this is the crux of the Upanishad. The teacher says the student asked, who is it who desired by whom, prompted by whom, the mind, etc., go to their objects. Now see, listen carefully. What does the teacher say? He says, Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Manoyata Vachoha Vacham Sau Pranasya Pranaha Chakshushaschakshurati Muchyadhiraha Pretyasmad Lokadamruta Bhavanti. The teacher says, I will read out the mantra. Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Manoyata Vachoha Vacham Sau Pranasya Pranaha Chakshushaschakshurati Muchyadhiraha Pretyasmallokadamruta Bhavanti. The teacher says the one who prompts is the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, the speech of the speech, the prana of the prana, and the eye of the eye. Knowing this, wise man give up their identification with the body mind intellect complex, and they are liberated and they become immortal. This is the reply of the teacher. So what does he say? He doesn't say such and such or there is this one who is prompting. No. What does he say? The one who does all this is Shrotrasya Shrotram. He is the ear of the ear, mind of the mind. When we listen to this, a question may arise in our mind that does the teacher mean that there's an ear behind the ear, mind behind the mind, eye behind the eye, ear behind the ear, prana behind the prana, who makes all this happen? No, it's not that. Then he could have very well said that he is such and such. The one who does is such and such. But that also teacher doesn't do. He very well knows what he is replying and why he is replying in this manner. Teacher knows what he is saying. So there is a reason in the reason behind the teacher saying Shrotrasya Shrotram. The one who does is the ear of the ear, which means that there is someone, there is that consciousness or the self, because of which this sense organs as well as mind, sense organs of knowledge, as well as the sense organs of actions, which means karmendriyani and jnanendriyani, and the entire complex is able to function, is able to do what they do, is because of this consciousness of or the self. Then he could have said that way. Then there may be a doubt in our mind that he could have said that there is this, but he doesn't say that. Why? Precisely because Atma or consciousness cannot be described as such and such. Here, had Atma been available for that kind of description, that he is such and such, having this kind of qualities, this form, this name, this attributes, then it would have been easy. But here that is not the case. For instance, let me give you an example. When you see the grass being cut, then you know that the mower is using that tool and cutting the grass. But when I am describing the one who is cutting the grass, he has the person using the tool and cutting the grass, he has his own qualities. He has his own characteristics, height, weight, qualities, etc. So I can describe him. But here, Atma or consciousness is without any name, without any form, jati, kriya, guna, sambandha. If a thing has all of this or some of this, some name, some form, some shape, some qualities, some relationship, some action, then we can describe him as such and such. But here, that is not the case. We do not see him. We do not see this consciousness. But from the very functioning of the sense organs, we infer the presence of that conscious self. You understand? He is inferred from this precisely because inert cannot function on its own. Plus, some conscious has to be there for whom this inert parts are functioning. Just as to give you an example, when the house is being built, we never see that the bricks and the sand and lime and rods, etc., come together on their own and join and build a house. No, that doesn't happen. There is someone who brings them together, makes all the arrangements, designs, etc. And it is for him, he brings them together, and this inert things serve his purpose, brought together by him, because of him, plus serving his purpose. Understand? Similarly here, the sense organs, the body, the prana, the mind, everything is inert. Still, they are functioning intelligently. They are doing whatever they are doing in the most intelligent manner. Now, they cannot do it on their own. That shows that there is someone for whom they are doing. And it is his presence because of which all this is happening. Now, the question may arise, but does that entity, does that consciousness doesn't require any other help, any other extraneous help? No. If that were the case, then this shrotra, this ears, etc., work because of its shrotra, which means because of the consciousness. Then again, the consciousness will require another consciousness to work, which will require another consciousness. In this manner, there will be this defect called anavastha dosha, or which will mean that we can never come back to the source. So the Shruti says that no, this consciousness, because of which the Shrotra, etc., are working and functioning, is self revealing and stands on its own. It is because of his illumination, because of its presence, because of its consciousness, all of them work. And consciousness itself doesn't require any other source of consciousness. It is self revealing, self illuminating. Just as one lamp doesn't require another lamp for illumination. Similarly, consciousness is of that nature. And as I said, the teacher could have described in a very direct manner that it is such and such, but he cannot do that because it doesn't have any attributes. It is nirvishesha, nirguna, nirakara, but that doesn't mean it is not there. It is very much there. There are many shrutis to corroborate this, which are the famous shrutis which confirm to this. So then here Bhashikara has given us. What are they? Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Kenopanishad, there is a mantra which says that it is because this consciousness shines that the entire creation shines. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Yadadityagatam tejah, Yadadityam gatam tejah, Jagat bhasayate kilam, Yat chandramasi, Yat chagno, Tat tejo vidhi mamakam. There Lord Krishna says that the light, the sun which lights up the entire creation, the moon, other luminaries, etc., do not think that they are doing it because of the source of the light which is in them. No, that is because of me. Tat tejah vidhi mamakam. Bhagavan says it is because of my light. It is because of my illumination, because of the illumination which is me, that they are able to function. So there are many such shrutis which show, which confirm to this, that is the consciousness itself because of which this inert body is able to function, which here the teacher described as shrotrasya shrotra, manasaha manaha, vachoha vacha. It is as if, there is an ear behind the ear. That ear is consciousness. So this is how the teacher replied. And then the mantra said, Atimuchya diraha. Having said that, the mantra straight away says, Atimuchya dira, wise man knowing this. So we have to apply this words having known. Having known this consciousness because of which the body functions, having known the truth of the body, the wise men, dhiraha. Wise man means people whose focus is not what the body is doing, not what is happening outside, but because of whom. There are minds, which are whose focus is towards the source. They are introvert people. They are after knowing the truth. So that is called jignasa. Only and only when this kind of jignasa is there, where the mind is directed towards knowing the truth, knowing the reality, knowing the source, only then and then the doors of truth are open. Only then and then the doors of truth or the reality will open for them. But first, we have to be curious about it. Just as in, let me tell you, just as in Mundakopanishad, there is a student. He also comes up with a similar question. He says, Kasminnu idam vignate, Kasminnu bhagavo vignate, sarvam idam vignatam bhavati. He also comes up with a question. His question is, what is that knowing which everything becomes known? Is there any such thing? Having known, having known which everything, everything in this universe you come to know. That means he has some general knowledge of and the feeling that there should be something. There should be something as the core. There should be something fundamental as the basis of this entire creation, because of which the creation is. And it should be the material cause, knowing which everything is as well known. Similarly, this here also the student asked this, and the teacher also pointed to that. See, the uniqueness of this knowledge is that here the Atma or the truth or the self cannot be described in as such and such that it is possessed of this qualities, etc. No, but it has to be pointed. It has to be it is inferred or pointed, not, which means it is not described in words, not vachyartha but lakshyartha. Here the very activity functioning of the body becomes a pointer to that, becomes a pointer to the self. That is why teacher described it in this way. And then the mantra further says that knowing this, having known this is a big revelation, very big revelation. When the student heard that, you, oh yes, the teacher says there is someone behind all of this, that consciousness, because of which means I cannot be this inert one. So far, I took myself to be this BMI. I took myself to be this personality. I took myself to be an individual, an ego. But I am not that. I am this consciousness. I am this self-evident consciousness. So once you know this, then what happens? Then the mantra said, Pretya asmad lokat amrita bhavanti. Pretya asmad lokat, which means pretya means giving up. What asmad lokat, which means that when the student heard this, it clicked to him. The message went home that I am not this anitya, I am nitya, I am atma, I am the self, knowing which he now gives up his identification, his tadatmya, his asakti with the body as well as those related with the body. Our problem is that we take ourselves to be the ego, that is ahankara, and then we are attached to those who are to those whom we are related to those who are related with this ego, ahankara and mamakara. But when he came to know that I'm not this individual which I took myself to be, I'm not the bound one, I'm not time bound, I'm not space bound, I'm not bound by anything. I am that consciousness which is asangaha, which is nitya. When he came to this, see, this then he gave up this identification. And the very knowledge, this very knowledge, by this very knowledge, he became Amritaha Bhavanti. He means those wise men. They become immortal. Here there is no becoming. Here it is knowing is becoming. The very knowledge, which means the very perception about yourself. See, understand your bondage as well as your liberation is in your understanding, is in what you take yourself to be. If your understanding about yourself is that I am this limited body, I am this limited personality, then you are bound. But when here the teacher taught that it is because of the consciousness that all this happens. So, in this answer, the student came to know that I am this, I am consciousness. And now his perception about himself changed. In this perception itself, he is now liberated. So, he was given his identity. What I am, understand, I am only that much which I take myself to be. Everything depends upon what is my understanding of myself. If I take myself to be ahankara, I am only that much. Dina, hina, dependent. But if when after teaching, if I realize that I'm not that, I have nothing to do with the body. It is just an instrument for me, and it's working because of me. I am that consciousness. When you come to know this, then he gave up the identification with the body. That is one meaning of Pretya, and he became free. That means he became Jivan Mukta. So Pretya means here itself, here and now, he is now free. And the other meaning is that Pretya means when he departs. So when Prarabdha is over and when the body is no more there, then he gets Videha Mukti. Videha Mukti means now he doesn't need to be born again. So he's free. Vimuktascha vimuchyati. He was already free, and now he will not even have this bondage in the sense, in the form of the body. And when he was alive, that time also, because of knowledge, he became free. That is why Mundaka Upanishad says, Brahma Veda, Brahmaiva Bhavati. One who knows Brahman, one who knows reality becomes that. See, this is the only thing where knowing is becoming. There is no real becoming. If you become something, then you, after having become something, you realize that that is also limited. And having known something, then you have to change and acquire that. Here, that is not the case. Here, you come to know that you are Brahma, and you become. Why? Because so far, ignorance deprived you of your reality, of your wealth. But that ignorance having gone because of the teaching, you become that. So, in this first two mantras itself, the Upanishad has taught everything. But still, having heard this, it takes some time. So there must be some expression on the face of the student that when the teacher said, the truth is the shrotrasya shrotram, the ear of the ear, the one because of whom this body functions is consciousness. That means what is the meaning of this? Consciousness means what? Because our orientation is to see with the eyes, listen with the ears, grasp with organs of action, etc. So our samskaras, our tendency is to visualize, to conceptualize. So when the teacher said like this, then the student had some, maybe he had some expressions on his face which showed that he was not quite happy. That is why, maybe because he is trying to fathom what is that, how to see that. Maybe there was that kind of expression on the student's face. That is why the teacher makes it very clear. What does the teacher say in the next mantra? Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, na manah, na vidmah, na vijanimah, yatetad anushishyat, anyadeva tad viditat, atho aviditat adhi, iti shushrama purvesham, yenastadvyacha chakshire. So teacher makes it very clear. The teacher says, na tatra chakshur gacchati. Why does the teacher say? Because he wants to eliminate or obviate our tendency to see the truth, to grasp the truth. See, these sense organs are because of that truth. So they will not be able to reach the truth that way. So teacher says, na tatra chakshur gacchati. Eyes do not go there. Eyes do not, which means eyes cannot see that. Na vag gacchati. The speech cannot speak about it. Which means that Brahman or the truth is not something which can be revealed by speech. Na manaha. Mind also cannot conceptualize. With the mind, we try to visualize, we try to conceptualize, get an idea about a thing. Teacher says, na manaha. Even mind does not go there. Remember what Taittiriya Upanishad says? Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Mind, etc., retreated from that, not being able to visualize it. Similarly, here the teacher says, don't try to see, because our samskaras are like that. What is that? We want to hear, we want to smell, we try to grasp things in that way. Now understand, when the teacher said, na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, na manaha, he says this sense organs which we have do not have no access over there. Understand what it means. These are the tools with which we can see objects which are outside of us. The object which has a form, if it has a form, then the eyes can see. If an object has a sound, then ears can hear. If an object has a smell, this organ of smell can smell it. So on and so forth. Which means all these tools, all these organs of action and knowledge are meant for knowing the world outside, which has a form, etc. Whereas here, the truth is one because of which the mind and these organs, etc., are functioning. They cannot see it. I'll give you an example. Just as with the help of a binocular, we see the objects which are far off. We want to see an object which is far off, then we use the binocular to see that. But can the binocular see the eyes with which you are seeing the objects outside? Understand what I'm trying to say. Binocular can see the objects which are far off, but binocular cannot be used to see the eyes. You follow? Similarly, these organs of action and knowledge can objectify objects which are outside, but they cannot objectify the very subject. The subject cannot be objectified by these tools. Understand? Because it is the subject because of which they are functioning. That is why the teacher said, don't try to do that. Don't use your eyes to see the self. It is ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, arasam, agandham. Very beautifully, Upanishad says this. So, then the student must have been confounded. So the teacher said, na vidmaha, na vijanimaha, yataitet anushishya. The student must have been depressed or frustrated. Then how to see the self? How to know the self? A question may arise that if this mind doesn't go there, if the eyes cannot see it, then how to see? How to know that self? So the teacher said, I have no other method. I do not know any other method of communicating this knowledge. That doesn't mean that teachers cannot teach. We'll come to that. They can very well, but there is a method of communicating this knowledge. Even though words cannot reach that. Navag gacchati, it has already been said. The speech cannot go, ears cannot go. Does that mean that there is no way of knowing it? But then what about the Upanishad, which are words? And words meant to convey the knowledge of the self. What about that? Yes, the words cannot reach there. And yet, words, when used in a very, very brilliant manner, peculiar way, then the very words will point to that self. And here comes the need of the teacher. Here comes the need of sampradaya. Understand this very well. Knowledge of self, Atma Vidya, is not something which you can gain on your own, because it is hidden right here. It is your very core. It is your very self. You need someone to point out that to you. Because another reason is we already have many misconceptions about the self. From Anadi Kala, we have taken this individual, this body to be the self, this mind to be the self. I'm a personality. This personality is very complicated one. There are many layers into it. There is mind, there is this gross body. Then there are organs of action, indriyas are there, prana, the mind is there, intellect is there. So many things are there. And we have taken that to be I. Our problem is not only do we not know what the self is, what Atma is, but we have wrong knowledge of it. We take it to be what it is not. Understand this very well. Not only do I not know what Atma is, but that which is not Atma, that I have taken to be that. Body is not Atma. Chakshu, Shrotra, etc. are not Atma. Mind is not Atma. Intellect is not the self. And combination of all this, I'm not that. But it is so deeply entrenched in us that I am this body, personality, that now it is difficult to understand that what the self is. And that is why teachers uses the words very carefully. When the teacher says that I do not know any other way of communicating this, na vidmaha, na vijanimaha, yatetet anushishya, don't mean that he cannot communicate. He now resorts to the words itself, but the words which are proven one. He now says, see how humble they are. The teacher says that we have got the words, the proven words, the words of Agama, which means we have heard from our teachers the way they communicated the knowledge of the self. And we will also use the same words to communicate this knowledge. What are those words? So the teacher says, Anya devatad viditat atho aviditat ati. This is very important. And this is just marvelous. It is a brilliant statement which falls upon the self. These words, when understood very well, it takes you to the self. It takes you to your core, your reality. Even though you will not be visualizing, but still you will have an understanding of the self. Listen carefully. What did the teacher say? That Anya Atma is. What is the self? Anya devatad viditat atho aviditat adi. This is the teaching. Please pay attention. Anya devatad viditat, which means Atma is something which is different from vidita. Vidita means from what you know, from what is knowable. Vidita means what you have known and what is knowable. Self or consciousness is anyad eva tat viditat. It is different from that which is known. Now we will analyze. we will see what we know. You think along with me. We invite you to think what all is known. Everything is in this creation has name and form. And all those names and forms we come to know. We see color, we hear sound. So the entire creation falls in which category? Vidita, which means it is known or it can be known tomorrow. But still, it can be known. I may not know it today. I may not have visited, let us say, Mexico, but I can always see it tomorrow. Similarly, Vidita, what all comes in this word Vidita? Everything in this creation, even heavens, even devatas, anything which has form, anything which has name, anything which has qualities can be known today or tomorrow. So the entire gamut of this creation falls into Vidita, which means known. And what does the teacher say? Teachers say, Anya Deva Tad Viditat. Atma or the truth or consciousness or Brahman is different from what you know. Then maybe it is unknown, not knowable. So what does the teacher say? Anya Deva Tad Viditat Atho Aviditat Adi, which means it is even different from unknown. See, there are only these two categories. In this, something is known and there is something which is not known. What we see is always effect. What we do not see is its cause. So there is this creation, and whatever is manifest in this creation, we will see. We can see. But we do not see the cause of this which is unmanifest. Just as we see the sprout and the tree growing from that sprout, which is the effect. But we do not see the seed, which is the cause of that sprout and the tree. But from the seed, we can infer the seed. Plus, the seed is known when it becomes the sprout. So the effect, the cause, when it comes in the form of the effect, it can be known. So you follow? Today you may not know the cause, but when it comes in the form of the effect, you come to know it. So, but here what did the teacher say? Brahman is something, or the self is that which is different from the known and different from unknown. There are only these two things, known and unknown things. In none of this does the self come. Self is different from known as well as different from unknown. One more thing here, Bhashyakara pointed out. Bhashyakara made a very, very profound comment. He said, whatever is known is always limited, always bound in time, space, objectivity. So whatever is known is limited. And when you get that limited, very soon you will be tired of it. Limited will not satisfy you. Anitya, or that which is ephemeral, will sooner or later tire you out. Because what we want is nitya. And when we experience anitya, very soon we will give it up. So whatever is known is limited, alpam, and that is why dukhatmakam, and that is why heyam. What you know, sooner or later, when you know its limitations, you will give it up. You will get bored with it. You will want to give it up. So whatever is known is heyam. Heyam means you will give it up. And you will try to catch or grasp that which you have not known. So known will be given up and unknown you will try to grasp. That which you have not experienced today, it gives some promise to you and then you want to try it out. But the moment you come to know that, that also will be given up. So there are these two things in our life, heyam and upad. This two things we keep on doing, trying to acquire something and giving up something. Heyam, upadayam. There are only two things, known and unknown. Known, we give it. Unknown, we try to catch. And once we know it, we again give it up. These are only two activities, think, which we carry out. Try to give up and try to acquire. Giving up, acquiring. Acquiring, giving up. And what falls into this category is known and unknown. Brahman or self, the teacher said, the statement is Anya Devatat Viditat Atho Aviditat Adi. It is different from known as well as different from unknown. Known is not Brahman. Unknown also is not Brahman. Then what is left out? Tell me, what is left out? Yourself. Yourself doesn't mean this body, because body I know, mind I know, intellect I know. What is it? The self, the consciousness is different from the known, different from unknown. So these words land you upon the self. If you carefully listen and reflect over these words will take you to the self. Anyadeva viditat, anyadeva aviditat. Different from known, different from unknown. There is only one thing which is different from known and different from unknown. And what is that? Think. We invite you to think. And that is the self. Now here, teacher has not described it. He has not created any concepts. And yet, by Lakshyartha, he has taken us to the self. And then teacher says, these are the proven words. Yes, I'm sure you agree with me. These are the words which take you to the self. Yes, that consciousness, which is my very nature, is not known, is not unknown. Why? Because it is right me. It is right myself, my truth. And then teacher said, this is what we have heard. Iti Shushruma Purvesham. Our teachers taught us in this way. And that is what we are teaching to you. So this is how the teacher taught him. Plus, as I said, this tendency to look for the truth outside is, as I said, deeply ingrained in us, deeply entrenched in us. So even when it is said that you are Brahman, Tattvamasi, you are what you are seeking. Seeker himself is the sought. But still, our tendency is that no, I cannot be Brahman. Everything else can be, but I cannot be. We are not ready to take up this challenge because our notions about ourselves is our thinking about ourselves so low. I cannot be Brahman. I am ready to worship someone else as Brahman. I am ready to worship Ishvara, but I cannot. I am not Ishvara. I cannot be Ishvara. So this is too much. It is very difficult to swallow this, that I can be that. And that is why the tendency to worship someone else as Ishvara, as great, always remains. So the teacher here wants to remove that, wants us to grow out of this tendency to look upon someone else, even Ishvara, as Brahman. And see, understand, be very careful. This is not to eliminate Upasana. We are not criticizing Upasana. No. But there comes a time in life when we should be ready to understand the truth, let alone abide in that. First, understand why are you not ready? That Upanishad seems to say, why are you not ready to own up your reality when it is being clearly, in categorical terms, it is being said that you are Brahman. You are the fundamental reality. Don't look for it outside. Don't look for happiness, peace, satisfaction outside of you. It is not there. It is you. You are that. Accept it. Don't reject it. Always don't keep on begging from Ishvara. I want this. I want love. I want peace. I want this, that, etc. Our hand is always stretched out to the world, to Ishvara. There is nothing wrong in praying. I'm not saying that. But here, when the teacher is out to teach, he wants to, he wants the student to outgrow the samskaras or of looking upon someone else as Ishvara and worshipping that and not looking upon himself as Atma. By himself, I don't mean this body. Please don't misunderstand me. Body is not the self, but that because of which the body works. That is the self. So then in one, two, in about 6 mantras which follow, we'll not go into all of them, but there the teacher says, I'll just read one of them. Yadvacha anapyutitam yena vagapyutyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. The teacher says, understand, yadvacha anapyutitam, that which is not revealed by the words, but because of which the words speak is Brahman. Not that which the speech speaks, but that because of which the organ of speech is able to speak, which means yourself, your core is Brahman. And then the teacher says that tadeva brahmatvam vidhi, may you know that to be Brahman and not which you worship outside. Worshipping is not wrong, but sooner or later, you will have to know the truth. If you do not know it now, then you will always remain away from it. You will always reject it. Sooner or later, face it, know it. So that is why teacher said, Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vitti Nedam Yadi na idam yat idam upasate. That which you worship as this, which means looking upon someone as Brahman, even God, that is not. You are that. Then this is how the teacher taught him. Plus, then again, to make it very sure, this the teacher doesn't want to take any chance. So to make it very sure that the student has heard very well, listened very well, Shravanam is done very well, and he does not look upon some concept, some form, some vision as Brahman. That should not happen. To rule out that possibility, teacher says, what does the teacher says? When the student must have come and said that, yes, I now know Brahman. I know Brahman very well. The teacher took an objection to that. Why? Because, as I said, teacher wants to make it sure that Brahman should not be known as object. Anything which is outside of you, having a form, or Brahman or truth is not a matter of objectification. Anything which is objectified, you know it differently, very well. Yes, it has this form, it has this height, it has this weight, it has this design, etc. Brahman cannot be known that way. So when the student came and reported that, yes, I know Brahman very well, the teacher took an objection. He said, Yadi manyase suvedeti daharamevapi nunam tvam veta brahmanoru. He said, if you think you know Brahman very well, understand you know a very limited form of it. So you know You don't know it. So better think. When he was pointed this, the student went in solitude, reflected, meditated again upon Shravanam, carried out reflection upon what he had heard, came back, and now he reports. He says brilliantly. Now the student is in line with the teacher, and he gives the reply which any teacher would be proud of. The student says, Naham manye suvedeti. He says, I don't think that I know Brahman very well. The, the emphasis upon very well. But then that doesn't mean I do not know. I know as well as I do not know, which simply means that I know Brahman as the very self, and I don't objectify it. I know it as myself, as Nirgun, Nirakar consciousness, which is constantly declaring itself, which is there in the form of I, the very truth of I, the very Aham, Asti Bhati Priyam. It is there. So I know it as that. Then again, how to know this Brahman in the world? Then teacher said, then the teacher said, Pratibodha Viditam Matam. He says that Brahman is to be known in each and every cognition of the mind. See, our mind constantly has thoughts. Now, in all those thoughts, also Brahman has to be appreciated. How? Then Brahman is something which is the content of the thought as well as the illuminator of the thought. When any thought arises, hmm, when the thought arises, we come to know about it. Who is the one who illuminates that thought? Who is the light because of which the thought comes in our mind? See, there is a pot thought. I came to know that the thought of pot is there. Somebody illuminated that. Who is that consciousness? Plus, what is the content of that thought? That content of that thought is also Brahman. So, to understand Brahman, you don't have to go anywhere. That Nirvishesha is constantly coming in the form of Vishesha. Even though Nirvishesha doesn't become Vishesha, is different from the Vishesha, it is still very much understood in Vishesha. For example, when you see the waves, then what is a wave? Wave is nothing but water. From the water in the ocean, the wave arises, remains in water, and then goes back to water. Similarly, from silence, which is Brahman, thought arises. We come to know about it. It remains for a while and goes back to silence. Thoughts are different, just as waves are different. But in and through all those waves, there is water. Similarly, one thought is different from another thought. One thought pertains to pot, another thought pertains to table, third thought pertains to tree. These thoughts, objects of the thought, that is, name and form of the thoughts are different. But what is invariable in them? What is the constant thing in them? Consciousness. Consciousness in the form of this thought, pot thought, came, remained, went back. Another thought came, tree thought. Consciousness illuminated that thought, plus in the form of in the content of that thought. Just as water in the form of wave comes and goes, another comes and goes. Water remains constant. Similarly, here, consciousness, self is very much there. Thoughts keep on coming. This is how, in spite of the thoughts, in spite of our functioning, in spite of whatever we have to do, we keep on doing, but we never miss the truth, because consciousness is always there, because of which everything happens, and which is the content of everything. So teacher said, bodham bodham prati veditam. This is how the self is known. And it is only this knowledge which, which will make you free. And it is from this knowledge that you will gain strength. There is no other strength. See, this we have to do with our own prayatna. Without this knowledge, we will always remain limited individuals. And there is no happiness in that. We are constantly struggling to be happy, struggling to be someone, struggling to be bigger than what I am. I want to be something. Why? Because I'm not happy with myself as I am. The teacher says, you are wonderful. Here and now, you are consciousness. You are Brahman, because of which this entire creation is. Why do you look for it outside of you? This is the key to happiness. It's not away from you. It is ignorance which, which creates a distance from you and happiness, from you and fulfillment. And this ignorance is to be removed. Atmana vindate virya. We have to find that strength from ourselves. We have to work for it. This knowledge is there in Upanishads, in the Vedas, and they come to us through teachers. We just have to expose ourselves to that. Work for it. You may say that we are ready to expose, but it never occurred to us. Yes. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said very beautifully that we have to prepare ourselves for this knowledge. How do we prepare? Live a very, very there is there is a manner in which you have to live this life. Live in such a way that your antakarana, your heart becomes pure. What is the method of that life? Karma yoga. Live in such a way, perform your duties in such a way, live your daily life in such a way where you become a contributor, where you want to give something and not always demand something. You have to transform yourself from being a grabber to being a contributor. Not, I don't want anything. I'm ready to give something. When this trend is there, contribution, then you strike a balance, you strike a note, you strike harmony with consciousness which is there everywhere. And then your heart becomes pure. So, in short, you have to live a life of karma yoga, which makes you pure. Then, with upasana, make your mind focused and open the door for jignasa to occur. These questions to come for this. Then, automatically, there is this uh, provision in the universe, in this creation, that automatically this knowledge will come to you. Such webinars will be conducted, and somehow these words of the Upanishads will reach you. And then the Upanishad very beautifully makes a statement out of compassion. See, teacher says, now the Shruti is reporting in her words, going away from the dialogue of the teacher and the student. Now Shruti has come into play. It says, Iha ched avedit atha satyamasti. In the fifth mantra of the second chapter, the last mantra of the second chapter, Shruti Upanishad makes a beautiful remark. It says, Iha ched avedit atha satyamasti. No ched iha avedi mahati vinashti. What it means is, if you know this now, iha ched avedit. If you know this truth about the self, which means if you have Atma Vidya, knowledge of the self now. Now means what? Here. Iha. Iha is very significant. Iha means in this body. If you know it, you have made it. What is so great about it? Why are you so insistent upon Iha now? Why? Because this human birth is very rare. It is only in this human body that we have intellect of this type, which can discriminate, which can question what is nitya, anitya, what is my reality. All these questions will occur in human body. A bug will not be perturbed by this. A mosquito will not ask, what is my true nature? They are all programmed. They get, when their needs are satisfied, that's all. That's how they are. But human being is not satisfied because he's self-conscious. He's keenly conscious of his limitations. And then he questions, what is the way out? Is my lot to be limited? Is bondage my reality? No. These questions arise here. Intellect is given precisely to fathom this, to understand this truth. Therefore, the Shruti says, Iha ched avedi. If you know it in this human form is very important. This human body, as Bhashyakara says in Vivek Chudamani, in the very second mantra, he says, Jantunam narajanma durlabham. For Jantu, Jantu means jivas. For the jivas to get this human form, narajanma, to be born as a human being, is very, very difficult, is very rare. Don't think that it is very easy. It is the result of many, many punya karmas, of a life lived intelligently, satkarma plus Ishwara's grace. So many punya karma, satkarma, and that to nishkama karma are required. Even after being born, it is not necessary that everybody has jignasa. No. Only when this wealth of punya is there, of nishkama karma is there, satkarma, done without any personal agenda, done out of done with the attitude of offering. Let me offer myself. I have gained a lot. Let me now give. When life is lived in this manner, when one has lived a life of dharma, life lived of prayerful attitude, life lived with a sense of offering, performing duties, then a jignasa arises. And then one comes and asks. So, Shruti says, Iha ched avedit atha satyam asti. Then your life will be meaningful. Otherwise, what will happen? The loss is infinite. The loss is limitless. Pay attention. Na ched iha avedit. See, the Shruti says, I am not saying this. Upanishad says, if you do not know it now, na ched iha avedit. If you do not know it here, which means if you do not know it in this human form, then mahati vinashtihi. Then the loss is infinite. The loss is limitless. Why? Because you never know when again you will get this human form. Once you go, you don't know anything. It is a dark area. When again you will gain this form, plus you have all the right conditions, being born in a good family, educated family, those who have sanskaras, and then to have such a mind. Otherwise, artha and kama may only be your purushartha. But this kind of questions arise. All this is very, very, very rare. And once you have got it, then know it. Human being has a chance to make a choice. A dog or a mosquito or a bug or even corona. do not have this choice that should I work for my moksha? They don't have such choices. We have a choice. Exercise your choice. Life is made when you make right choice. The success of life, the absolute success of life depends upon making right choices at the right time. Always there are vikalpas, choice, the two paths before us. What are we choosing? Every moment we have to make a right choice. And once you make a right choice, you have made it. Because if you do not do that, the chance is gone. Life will ebb away. And the greatest wonder is we do not know how much time we have. Do we know? Are we sure of the second moment? Bhashyakara says in Bhajagovindam, Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam, tattva jivitam atishay chapalam. This life is very unsteady, like the drop of water on that lotus leaf. When it will fall down, you never know. Similarly, when this life will stop, we do not know. When this breath will stop, do we have any guarantee? So, it's a big gamble if we waste our life. So, we have to make the most of our time. Use it in the right way. Every moment is very, very precious. Once you lose it, then it is gone. And when again you will get just a chance, you never know. There is a very beautiful story. Let me tell you that. Once a person was in his house and doing something, and somebody knocked from outside and knocked. This fellow inside did not reply. Then again, that person who was outside knocked. The person inside, he says, "Who are you? Who is it?" The person outside said, "I'm opportunity." He said, "I am opportunity." The person inside said, "You are bluffing. You are bluffing. You can't be opportunity." The person outside said, "Why? I am opportunity." The person inside said, "You cannot be opportunity." Why? Because opportunity, miss opportunity comes only once. It doesn't knock your door twice. Follow? So opportunity which we get is just once. This is a way of saying, which means we may not get such chances of growing, of knowing our own truth. Imagine, we do not know who we are. I don't know who I am. What kind of a life is it? When you don't know who you, then you know everything what is going on moon and etc. Lot of general knowledge, but that doesn't make any difference. My happiness is in knowing that I am Satchidananda. There is no other happiness. Happiness coming from the world is not true. It will go away. And even when it is there, you have to pay price for it. It is very dear. It is very costly. You give your time, you give your energy, and you spend away your whole life. And when you find, what have you got? That is meager, nothing, and your life has passed away. So Upanishad says, "Iha ched avedit atasat." Then you have made it. There is nothing more to be gained in life than Atma Jnana. It is a jackpot. Once you know it, you have everything. It is that because of which the entire creation is, because of which the happiness is. The happiness which seems to come from the outside world is also really belonging to the self. Chandogya Upanishad says, "Yo vai bhuma tat sukham, nalpe sukham asti." That which is woman is happiness. There is no happiness in this ephemeral creation. So, having known this, then you are free. And you have to, and once you know it, then you know it as all pervading reality. Then, having gone from here, you become free. even now you are free. So with this, I conclude my first session. Nitinji, if there are questions, we are open for that.
Yes, Swaminiji.
I
Thank you
took 5 minutes more. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. We are very flexible with timings. I think we still have time. It's 12:42. We have around
Okay,
15,
but
20 minutes.
you wanted some time for question answers, no?
Yes, Swaminiji. Viewers, this is the time to ask questions. If you have any questions, please
Okay.
put on question
Otherwise,
and
we
above.
will.
Yeah, I think we have one question, Swaminiji. Uh,
Because
uh,
Nitinji, what happened that I had to skip some verses because we
mhm.
cannot go into everything. Otherwise, it will take a lot of time.
Yes, yes, Swaminiji. So, one question we have is what are the differences between ahankara, consciousness, and karana sharira?
Karana Sharira. Yeah, there's a big difference. Karana Sharira is ignorance. See, we do not see avidya. What we see is this subtle body, even subtle body we do not see. What we see is gross body. Gross body means Sthula Sharira. The cause of that is Sukshma Sharira. And Sukshma Sharira is also a bundle of vasanas, of desires. So ignorance has manifested itself in the form of Sukshma Sharira. But Sukshma Sharira cannot be there without the cause of ignorance being there. So Karana Sharira is nothing but ignorance, avidya. And that is avidya, it is ignorance. Consciousness is different from that. Consciousness is all knowledge. It is of the nature of light. So it cannot be compared with avidya. Avidya is tamas. Avidya is ignorance. And consciousness is Atma. It is the very source of illumination. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Swamiji, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Swamiji, we have another question. It's, I think, a comment or something like that. I mean, they're asking, it is often said that how come opportunity knocks only once? You know, it is said that opportunity knocks only once. How can we understand it in a philosophical way?
Yeah. Which means, it may come in your life again and again. But what we are trying to emphasize is that once it has come, we should not be loose. We should pay attention to that. We should see its importance and grab it. Because what is postponed for tomorrow, we never know whether we will be able to materialize it or not, whether we'll be even there to grab it or not. So always this is a way of saying, that when it has come, see it as the grace of Ishvara and catch it. Don't postpone. Don't procrastinate. We have tendency, we'll do it later. That later may not come. And Nitinji, we postpone it for later time. But tomorrow, whether even if I exist, whether I will have that mind, that capacity, that fitness, we do not know. You know, you may feel that why should we be so pessimistic? No, we are not being pessimistic. We are only giving a program, that one should be very, very careful and conscious and utilize the time in the utmost way.
Swamiji, the next question is, uh, they're saying, even though we know theoretically, so to speak, that we are not the body, we are not the mind or intellect, still it is not possible to retain this knowledge on a day-to-day basis. And and this is one question. Another related question is perhaps, how do we deal with the daily situations? You know, when they come and interact with us. So perhaps you can combine them to and answer them.
Yes. What was your first one? I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. What was the
Uh,
first one?
yeah, that even though we kind of intellectually know that we are not the body, mind, or intellect, still it is not possible to retain this knowledge on a day-to-day
Yes,
basis. I mean, we don't.
yes, understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, because precisely because, as I said, the samskaras, I have taken myself to be the ahankara, the body for very long time. It is not, this is not the only life that I had or any individual is having. There has been series of such lives where, because of ignorance, there was misconception about your own self. Arjuna had the same problem. He also said, I will be the killer and they will be killed, which means he takes himself to be karta, bhokta, etc. In spite of being taught, this remains. So it's not that easy. One has to keep on reflecting. So Shravanam, Mananam, all this is to go on. For some people who are very bright, like Nachiketa, supposing, there may be some for whom, once it is taught, they get it, and ignorance is totally removed. But that doesn't happen with most of us. We have to keep on listening, because the impact of ignorance is such that it comes back. It just comes back. They comment that as long as I was in the lecture hall and was listening, everything was fine. Moment I came went out of the hall, then there is a fight. Who took away my chappals? So you come back to the body reality, body consciousness. Yes, it happens. Don't worry. At least now you know. In the background of your mind, it has been a new thing is given to you. Are not this. You are not this. Keep working upon it. It will work someday. You have to just keep on repeating this. Repeating is not verbatim, but with reflect. And that is why we are asked to do nididhyasana. Nididhyasanam, where in spite of knowing, as the question is, the habitual error remains. I take myself to be body again. So in nididhyasana, I come back to myself. I give an appointment to myself. And there I take up each such notions and work upon it. Just as Bhashikara writes in Nirvana Shatkam, Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chittani Naham. Where you say, I am not this body, how can I be this body? I am the one who illuminates this body. Body is gross. I am not that. Body changes every moment. I cannot be that changing one. Body was an infant, it became a child, it became adolescent, it became youth. All this are the changes happening in the body. I'm the one who witnesses all this. So I'm the subject, body is the object. Like that, one has to keep on working with oneself. Then a time will come that in spite of carrying out your routine, carrying out an interaction with the world also, at the back of your mind, this will remain. I am not doing this. I am Atma. I am Asanga. All this is happening. It is a matter of time, and it is matter of purusharth. One has to work upon it.
Swaminiji, we have this question again. One is, what is the difference between manas and chitta? Or I think it is man and chit they are saying. I'm not sure whether they are referring to chitta or Brahman as chit.
Yeah,
You answer
I
it both ways.
the person is asking, yes, he's right. Whoever is asking, what is the difference between manas and chitta? See, actually, all this manas, chitta, etc., all these are really part of ahankara only. There is one ahankara, antakarana, sorry, antakarana. But antakarana is divided into this four, depending upon the kind of thought that is there. Which are these four? Then there is manas, then there is chitta, then there is buddhi, and then there is ahankara. These four are nothing but antakarana only. But depending upon the kind of the thoughts, we divide them into this four, which manas, chitta, buddhi, and ahankara. Now let me explain. Manas is that tendency of the mind where mind vacillates, from sankalpa to vikalpa, which means there is a thought that I will attend the I will register for the webinar. This is one moment. Then second moment there is a thought, no, I will not register. I will go, I will not go. Immediately, the mind keeps on fluctuating like that pendulum. That, this, that. When this is going on in antakarana, that vritti is called manas. Huh? Follow? Then the second one is chitta. Chitta is that vritti of the thought of the mind where you are thinking, where you are remembering. This capacity to remember past things, synthesize it with the present, and reflect. This ability of antakarana is called chitta. Okay, this is chitta. Then when you are deliberating upon something, when you are making decisions, that is buddhi. That is buddhi. And when you have I sense in that, then that is ahankara. So all this is antakarana vritti on. But depending upon their quality, their nature, Shastra has divided them into this four: manas, chitta, buddhi, and ahankara. Is it okay? Have I made have I made myself clear?
Yes, Swaminiji, it is clear. So we will take one more last question in this session, Swaminiji.
Yes.
And viewers, if you have any more questions, Swaminiji will always be taking it in the evening session.
Yes.
The last question is, why is Yajurveda known as Krishna Yajurveda and Shukla Yajurveda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are two in that, Shukla and Krishna. See, Yajurveda, like Yajnavalkya came to know about it. He learned it from his teacher, Sun, Lord Sun, Surya Devata. So what he taught is known as Shukla Yajurveda. And the other one is Krishna Yajurveda, black and white. These are two recensions of the same Yajurveda. But again, there is difference in them. And there are different Upanishads found in them. As I said, Taittiriya Upanishad and Kathopanishad is found in Krishna Yajurveda. And Shukla Yajurveda, Ishavasya, and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka is nothing but an expansion of Ishavasya. And in generally speaking, Shukla Yajurveda is prevalent more in north, and Krishna Yajurveda is prevalent in south. So you must have seen that the manner and the method of chanting also, method of chanting like Purusha Sukta, Rudram, etc. is different. In Krishna Yajurveda, they chant it differently, and in Shukla Yajurveda, they chant it differently. So there is this difference between them, but still belongs to Yajurveda only.
Okay. Thank you, Swaminiji. It was a wonderful session and wonderful discussion we have had. And we come to the conclusion of morning session. Swaminiji will continue her discussion on the Kenopanishad in the evening.
Second part.
Yes, but you will have to register for the evening session separately. Please go to our website or our Twitter or Facebook page to have the link to the registration if you have not already registered. And we will meet in the evening, 5 p.m. And Swaminiji will continue the session. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.